Thank you very much. Brian, would you like to ask a question? Go ahead.
Mr. President, welcome. President Trump. I just want to touch upon real quickly the Harvard poll that came out that had, thank you very much, the Harvard poll that came out had you up 9+ points, and all of your agenda that you ran on, you're accomplishing that. You've got the support of the American people, including stopping the war in Ukraine. If you can comment on the latest Harvard poll, I'd appreciate that.
Well, I was honored by it. It was a big poll, and it's usually a poll that leans on the other side of things, the other side of the world, so to speak. But the Harvard poll is a respected poll, and it has us not only leading, but leading by a lot, and leading on every single issue that we've talked about.
Boy. So I have more devastating news for the Democrat Party, okay? Because it seems as if they're getting bad news on a daily basis. It just continues to get worse for the Democrats just when you think that they hit rock bottom. No. It gets worse for Democrats because, as we discussed very briefly yesterday, Trump's poll numbers, there's a narrative out there for the mainstream liberal media that, well, his poll numbers are declining, right? And that the people are turning on Trump. And it's like, no, that's not the case. First and foremost, there are going to be variations in regards to the president's approval rating, just depending on the time period and what's going on, right? But there's been a nonstop onslaught of Trump derangement from the media and from Democrats, and President Trump is still sitting above a 50% approval rating, okay? The highest approval that he's ever had, right? I think that's damn good considering how, if you actually look at some of the real numbers, right, because we know these polls are rigged anyways, his approval is probably much higher than that, right? But when you have polls like the Harvard Harris poll, which is notoriously liberal, and also Morning Consult as well, too, these are polls that are coming out showing that, no, Trump is actually still very strong amongst the American people.
It's interesting, President Donald Trump, he's continuing to really dominate in the approval polls. A new Harvard Harris survey found that he holds a 52% approval rating, 52%. Now, 58% say that he's doing better than Joe Biden. 81% say that they support deporting illegal immigrants, of course they do. And 76% support eliminating fraud and waste, and finally 60% believe that Doge is helping. I can't believe there's still 40% that are somehow against Doge. But looking at those numbers, what's your assessment? It indicates that it's pretty strong.
Yeah, it's really strong. It's also an indictment of how weak our propaganda press has become, because I think people have tuned out to the mainstream media or the left-wing mainstream media. We've seen it in polls. They've turned to X, they've turned to independent journalists and what have you. And as a result of that, they're getting the actual truth, the actual news, and not the media's spin on it. And I think that's contributing to Donald Trump's popularity because people are actually seeing what he's doing, not what the leftist mainstream media wants to pretend he's doing.
Yeah, so you've seen that, you heard that, okay? President Trump is up across the board when it comes to the issues that matter, at the very least, okay? There's a Morning Consult poll. President Trump up plus 18 in immigration. National security plus 17. The national debt plus 12. Energy plus 9. Foreign policy plus 8. The economy plus 7. Taxes plus 6. Trade plus 6. Protecting Medicare/Social Security plus 6. Healthcare plus 6. LGBTQ rights minus 5. Abortion -6. Again, the bottom two don't really matter that much, right? Don't matter that much. The issues that actually really matter, Trump is dominant, right? He's dominant, okay, despite the propaganda from the media, okay? So again, when you have these types of numbers, okay, President Trump doing well across the board, that presents an issue for Democrats, right? Particularly, again, when it comes to donors, because, hey, the money kind of goes where the American people go, right? Because ultimately, at the end of the day, wealthy individuals and big corporations, they just want to make money. And right now, they're pulling out of the Democrat Party because the Democrat Party is not a good investment right now, okay? There is not a positive return on investment when it comes to giving money to Democrats, right? And again, that is why you have these angry donors doubling and tripling down on saying, no, we're not giving the Democrats any money, okay? And again, I think part of the reason has to do with the fact that they don't have a real vision, okay? They don't have a real leader, but also Trump derangement. And I think Trump derangement is the reason why they don't have a real leader or a real vision, because they think that fighting for the American people means fighting against Trump, right? Fighting against these numbers right here that we just went over, right? Like, this is what Democrats, this is what they're trying to fight against, okay? Which I think is the real reason why the donors are pulling out.
Democrats are reportedly still reeling following President Trump's return to the White House, and a rebuild is proving difficult with the flow of money drying up. According to The Hill, Democratic donors, both big and small, are holding back, still angry about November's election results and unenthused by anything their party has brought to the table since. Democratic donors telling the news outlet they're not willing to pay for no message and no forward thinking. Much of the frustration stems from Democratic supporters saying they feel misled by the party following former President Biden's poor debate performance, which led him to drop out of the race. Donors also note, even after former Vice President Kamala Harris became the Democratic nominee, they believe the campaign employed an outdated strategy reminiscent of the unsuccessful one used against Trump in 2016. Democratic strategist Steve Schale acknowledged there is genuine frustration, while attributing the lack of donations coming in to fatigue from the latest election cycle. Adding to funding troubles, charitable organizations that often support Democratic causes like voting rights, LGBTQ+, and immigrant rights are also pulling back support as they reportedly expect investigations from the Republican-led Congress. According to the New York Times, slowdowns in fundraising are typical after a presidential defeat and before midterm races kick into full gear. More than 50 Democratic donors, however, tell the Times they feel this year is different, as some say they fear retribution from Trump, while other once reliable Democratic donors now reportedly aim to work more closely with the president during his second term.
Yeah, so I'm sure the whole retribution thing is just an excuse from the donors not to give money to Democrats, right? Without telling Democrats, hey, we really don't want to give money to you because, again, giving money to the Democrat Party is like setting money on fire, okay? I mean, Kamala Harris blew $1.5 billion during the campaign season. Also on top of that, yes, the liberal media and the Democrats misled America about Joe Biden's mental deterioration, okay? They lied. They said it was cheap fakes, that it wasn't real. It was a right-wing conspiracy theory, that Joe Biden was declining. These type of things, these lies from the Democrats have created mistrust, right? Even the money people don't trust Democrats anymore, and I don't blame them. And again, this is a big deal, okay? Because Democrats have to figure this out before the midterms. Because I'm telling you guys, if the Republicans win the midterms, okay, if they expand their lead in the House, their majority in the House and in the Senate, is over, right? It is over for Democrats because the GOP will be able to do whatever they want to do, and it seems as if the GOP could be in leadership for the next decade at the very least, okay? I think that is what's going to happen if Democrats can't find an identity, actually find some competence before it's too late, okay? And there are no signs of that happening. Like, for example, Kamala Harris, who was a Democrat Party presidential candidate during the last election cycle after nobody voted for her in the primary, apparently, hey, Democrat Party voters have her leading, okay, as a leading contender in the 2028 Democrat primary, okay? So we're 4 years out, and Kamala Harris, who just lost the election, just blew $1.5 billion. And she's still giving out word salads and apparently getting participation trophies for losing to Trump. Take a look.
The former Veep, the woman who was one geriatric heartbeat away from the presidency before she squandered billions to run the worst campaign possible and lose all 7 swing states. Apparently, being a uniquely awful candidate entitles Kamala to some sort of a participation award. I assume this is what this is. This is from last week. I know you miss her vacuous word salads. I miss them.
Because then what do we have left? And the way that I see it also is that when we think about like these moments where we see things that are being taken, but also let's see it as nature abhors a vacuum. So where there's a vacancy, then let's fill it.
Then there's Hakeem Jeffries, who's getting a whole lot of backlash due to his limp wrist leadership that he's currently putting on display as the House Minority Leader for the Democrat Party. He is very uncharismatic. He is the discount version of Obama with zero riz, right? He has no riz. Again, the guy has the charisma of a cardboard box, okay? He is a square, if I've ever seen one. He's a super square, right? He is lame, super lame, right? I'm just saying, right? Like that's just the honest to God truth. Okay, I mean he's probably a decently intelligent guy, but he's just not. He's not. He just don't got it. Okay, he just don't got it. So, yeah, he was confronted by Stephen A. Smith over the Democrats having weak leadership because Stephen A. came out and basically said that they don't have good leadership, right? And that includes Hakeem Jeffries, okay? They got to find that guy. And Hakeem Jeffries put on display once again why he's not that guy. And Stephen A. asked him an interesting question, which is whether or not Democrats were going to move on from January 6th, because we know all the boohoo whining and crying about the so-called threat to democracy, right, didn't work. That didn't work for the Democrats during the campaign season. But for whatever reason, Hakeem Jeffries insists that Democrats should double and triple down on continuing to talk about January 6th.
When are we going to let go of January 6th? We're going to let that go because I mean, the man was impeached twice, convicted on 34 felony counts, and still reelected. I mean, at some point in time, somebody like Senator Durbin and others who was asking Pam Bondi about, were you willing to admit he lost the election? It's like, enough of that, because the American people clearly have spoken. At least 77 plus million of them have spoken. He won the Electoral College vote. He won the popular vote. He won the swing states, et cetera. They've said what they've had to say. When are y'all going to let that go? And number two, how are you going to go about not coming across as being at the mercy of the progressive left? And I'm asking you that question specifically because in a lot of American people's eyes, you're seen as somebody who's center left, more of a centrist, more reasonable than some of the folks that have been the most outspoken for the Democratic Party.
Well, I think in terms of January 6th, look, it's not something that the American people should ever forget.
Okay.
Because it was an extraordinary event. I was there when we were debating, as Congress does, the certification of the election. And we were told that a mob has breached the Capitol. They're on the second floor. They're a few steps outside of the House chamber and hit the ground, and be prepared to secure the gas masks that are underneath your seats, because there were people who were trying to stop the peaceful transfer of power.
Okay.
And this is the greatest democracy in the history of the world, so we can't forget January 6th. I'm not suggesting that it's a core issue moving forward in terms of how we are making our case to the American people, but we also can't ignore the fact that in one of his first acts, President Trump chose to pardon violent felons who brutally assaulted and beat police officers. Are they the party of law and order? That's actually lawlessness and disorder. We can't ignore it. I know they want us to. And actually, the American people, as I travel the country, all across America, are appalled that that actually could happen. Why? Because they know it doesn't make them safer when you are pardoning people and sending a signal that kind of violence is all right.
Yeah, so you see, now you heard that. Stephen A. Smith confronts Hakeem Jeffries on the fact that January 6th, their rhetoric does not work, right? That American people don't care that much about January 6th. And Hakeem Jeffries doubles down on January 6th. Well, we got to still talk about January 6th. We can't let them forget about January 6th. The American people are so appalled by what happened on January 6th, okay? If the American people were so appalled by what happened on January 6th, then Trump wouldn't be president, right? That's just the honest to God truth. It is not a major issue. And the fact that Democrats continue to double and triple down on this, despite the fact that it didn't work during the election, it just shows you everything you need to know. This party has nothing, right? They don't have anything to offer voters outside of Trump derangement. And I want you guys to listen to Stephen A's reaction right after he interviewed Hakeem Jeffries. And the fact that Stephen A came away from this interview basically saying that, yeah, Democrats don't have a leader, right? They still don't have a leader. Again, it just really shows you how unimpressive Hakeem Jeffries is as a politician. Take a look.
I want to give you my thoughts on the conversation I just had with House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries. First of all, impressive man, obviously knows what the hell he's talking about. He's been around for quite a while. An individual that was endorsed by Nancy Pelosi. If you're somebody on the left, you're perfectly comfortable with that. If you're somebody that's center left, okay, you'll tolerate it. Let's see how it goes. But in the aftermath of what transpired with this election, I just think that even though I was impressed with him, and there's a lot that he had to say. It's important to point out that the Democratic Party looks a bit discombobulated. Yes, you want to get on Trump. You want to point out Elon Musk and what he's doing with Doge. You want to point out Trump and how erratic he appears at times. You saw leader Jeffries bringing up everything from the economy and inflation and the cost of living to Trump's relationship with Putin, to Trump taking the position that he's taken against Zelensky, etc. You've seen and heard all of this stuff. You heard his concerns about Medicare and Medicaid, along with a bevy of other things. If you are the Democrats, stick to those issues and stick to attacking Trump on the issues, as opposed to bringing up the 2020 election, as opposed to bringing up, comments about, being a king and all of this other stuff that you're trying to use. It falls in line with the same old stuff you were bloviating about during the campaign. It's not going to work. What you're going to have to do is illustrate in very, very conspicuous fashion the flaws in his plans for America, how it works against your interest, and how what you're proposing will work for your interest. It's not enough anymore to engage in demagoguery about the other side. What are you going to do? And how are you going to convince us to believe you? You first got to find somebody that's worth believing. And I'm not denigrating Leader Jeffries in any way. But when you think about a national voice for the party, who is that person? It's non-existent right now. Mr. Carville, I said it again. It's non-existent right now. Not the talent. You might have talent, but who's going to resonate? You better find somebody. You better find somebody soon.
Yeah, so Stephen A. Is being nice to Hakeem Jeffries because he says, well, I found Hakeem Jeffries to be impressive, but if you found him to be impressive, Stephen A., then how in the world can you say the Democrat Party doesn't have a leader, right? I mean, he's not impressive, right? I mean, naturally, he is the leader right now, okay? He is the highest ranking Democrat in the House, and you just said they don't have a national voice, right? Even though he's in a national leadership position for the Democrat Party. So he wasn't impressive, right? You weren't impressed. He was a disaster. He was terrible. You were just trying to be nice, okay? You were trying to be nice. But again, it really shows you where the Democrat Party's at right now. They don't have a vision. They have absolutely nothing but Trump derangement. That's all they got. That's all they got, right? And that is why donors are saying, no, this didn't work. Trump derangement didn't work before. It's not going to work now. They don't have a vision. They can't be trusted with money. Why donate to the Democrat Party? Why donate? So, at this point, right, things just continue to fall apart for Democrats. What they're saying is not working, okay, and that's reflected in the polls. They're just not moving the needle because, again, they're obsessed with Trump derangement, and they don't stand for anything outside of being against Trump, and that has put them in some very, very, very awkward political situations. So, let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.